Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. For as long as I can remember, it's always been my mom and me. My dad is late. The closest I have ever been to my dad is through pictures and videos. When my mom was pregnant, she got a call from his workplace that he slumped and they were rushing him to the hospital, but he died before they got there. My mom doesn't really like to talk too much about the details, so I don't bug her about it. Growing up, it was tough for us. My mom was mourning while nursing me, so you can tell how that can affect a child. She was also struggling financially as my dad earned more than she did, and she had taken a break from work when she found out she was pregnant. My dad would cater to the family's needs while she nursed and nurtured me for a few years. As you know, things didn't go as planned. My dad's savings could only go so far, and we didn't have many relatives willing to help. I grew up really fast. When I was younger, many would say I was too mature for my age. My thoughts were like that of an adult. I guess it was a coping mechanism to be strong for my mom. I loved my mom so much, and I wanted to do anything to support her, anything to make her life easier. She made so many sacrifices for me, too numerous to mention. In my own small way, I decided that I would make her happy. So I studied hard to ace all my exams. I was a high-flying student. I just desired to make my mom proud, and seeing her smile gave me satisfaction. When I turned 14, she started seeing a man. At first, I was opposed to it because I wasn't used to having men in our space. It was always my mom and me. I was also afraid that he would take her away from me, so whenever they had to go out, I'd get upset. My mom knew the problem, so she spoke to me several times and reassured me. I still didn't like him, but I decided to give him a chance. I didn't like him and felt very awkward around him, but I behaved myself because of my mom. He tried to win me over with gifts, but I wasn't a regular kid who could easily be bought. He wasn't nice, and I didn't like that about him. He felt entitled to people's honor and respect because he was rich. He would say things like, "I don't mean to boast," and then go ahead to boast. I would be a millionaire now if I got $1 for the number of times he started a comment with that statement. My mom went out with him for about 11 months, and then he asked her to marry him. I was so sad. I remember crying the whole night. I couldn't stand the man. Now he would be my stepfather. My mom came to me that night and said something I'll never forget. She said she knew I didn't like him, and my reasons for not liking him were valid, but she had chosen to marry him. She mentioned that we wouldn't have to worry about money anymore. I'll get all these things I wanted that she said were luxury because she couldn't afford them. It broke my heart that my mom was marrying for convenience so she wouldn't have to worry about me. After the wedding, everything changed. My stepfather stopped trying to impress me. In fact, it was like I was the third wheel in their marriage. I would have been able to endure it more if my mom had fought for me, but she didn't. It got worse when my mom got pregnant with his children. It was as if I no longer existed. I was emotionally abused. My stepfather thought I was useless and would amount to nothing. He never failed to express it. I was a child that wasn't allowed to make mistakes. But how possible is that, really? He would make a big deal about everything I did and stop at nothing to demean me. He did it more when my mom wasn't around, and a few times when she was. When he saw that she didn't confront him about that, he took it as silent consent. I couldn't wait to become an adult and move out of the house. People who didn't know our family closely saw me and thought I was lucky to have a lovely, wealthy stepfather who cared for me and gave me all I wanted. That was the picture he and my mom painted for their public image. But that wasn't what was actually going on. No matter what I faced at home, I ensured that I remained a high-performing student and joined extracurricular activities. I had to put my all into school and withstand the ill treatment because school was my escape. Once I left, I was never going to come back. I made good on my promise to myself. I went through school and started my business. The first few years after school was hard. However, I decided that I needed to do it on my own. It's been almost 7 years now, and I can't wish for a better life. I grew my business, and we are making 7 figures every month. I have the best team any business person can ask for. I'm happily married to the love of my life, and we have 2 kids together. Life has been really good. I can't complain. My relationship with my mom and stepdad is almost non-existent. I speak to them very few times a year, mostly my mom. For my stepdad, it's almost never. When he found out I was doing well in business, he still tried to demean me. I had settled it in my head that I couldn't do anything to please him. At some point, he saw me as a competition and would try to brag about how he was doing. My mom still never stopped him. Old habits die hard, and some things never change. Anyways, keeping in touch with my parents on a regular basis wasn't healthy for me, so I stopped. I stopped expecting them to be proud of me and to see that I had made something of myself. I got a call from my mom yesterday asking me to come home urgently. I thought something had happened to her, so I rushed to see her the next day. I was surprised that there was no seeming emergency. Everyone seemed all right. I could tell that she had something important on her mind that she wanted to say. My mom wasn't one to hide emotions. My stepfather came back, and the tension in the air quadrupled. Suddenly, all the things he did to me kept rushing back, all the times my mom didn't stand up for me. My stepdad asked me for money because his business was bankrupt. He didn't say it like he was asking for help or pleading with me. He asked for it like I had no choice but to give it to him. I said a big no. I could see he was shocked, but he quickly fixed his expression. He started to say how I owed him my life for caring for my mom and me. He said he took me in and paid all my expenses. I agreed that he did that, but not without making my life miserable. Besides, I was part of the package when he married my mom. He signed up to be my father and to take care of me when he said I do to my mom. I added that he did a very terrible job, and I would have preferred if he never came into our lives. My mom tried to cut me off, saying he was my father and I needed to show some respect. I descended on her and told her she was an excuse for a mother. She married him so he could cover our expenses, even though she knew he wasn't good for us. She never stood up for me when her husband abused and vilified me. She turned a blind eye when he demeaned me and made me feel like I was less than everyone else. She let a man and money come in between our relationship. I haven't forgiven her for that. I made it clear that I wouldn't give any of them my money and that they should stop contacting me. My stepdad wouldn't stop. The most annoying part is he hasn't changed his approach. He still feels that he is entitled to my money. He had better find another way to get the money he needs because it's not coming from me. He thought I was the child who wouldn't amount to anything. Why am I the only one among my step-siblings who can save his company? My mom pleaded and pleaded with me. She said there was so much at stake for her and they couldn't lose their source of income. At this point, no one was saying the right things because all my mom said triggered me even more. After I had spoken my mind at her, there was no remorse for what she did, and she didn't acknowledge what I said. But here she was, telling me about her source of income being affected. It was always about her all along. She didn't want to live without, even to my detriment. She only cared about having money. Money she didn't work for. I recall how she paid a deaf ear to all my complaints about my stepfather, but would go out every day bringing back expensive things that she bought with his money, and say that she was doing it for both of us. No, she did it only for herself and her selfish reasons. How could she sleep well at night, knowing that she was being a horrible mother? My answer still remains the same. I will not help them. The business can go down the drain for all I care. My husband tried to change my mind but knew not to push further. NTA, your stepfather deserves what he got and more. I'm sorry your mother was too weak to stand up for you. You may want to investigate and make sure that he isn't abusing her too. YTA, in the beginning you mentioned how much you loved your mother. Your actions now don't show that you love her, and you would be making the same mistake she made, only in a different way. BG, my mom raised the four of us, 27 female, me, 25 male, 19 female, 17 male, as a single parent, and she was always the cool mom, baking cookies, playing video games, etc. She always said I was the responsible one, so I became in charge of checking homework, making sure everyone went to bed on time, and eating their vegetables, basically playing bad cop to mom's good cop. She told me multiple times that her plan was for all five of us to live under the same roof for all time, and that I would be in charge of keeping the family together. I said, screw that, and moved halfway across the country after college. We went NC for a few years, but I reached out a while back because I do miss them. I'd call our current relationship strained but pleasant. We avoid heavy topics and talk once in a while. I heard from the youngest, Ryan, that he had moved into my old bedroom a while back. Cool, I quickly forgot about it. Ryan called me the other day asking if I could help him with college apps. I happily agreed, but when we went on the Zoom call, I saw he was in my room. Not the room I had used, my room exactly as I had left it years ago. Same posters, same bedspread, even the cardboard boxes filled with old clothes clearly labeled throwaway. Frankly, I was freaked out. I asked Ryan why he hadn't redecorated, and he said Mom won't let him, that I'll eventually move back into that room and he'd go back to his old one. I was pissed. I managed to get through his college questions and had to lay down. That night, I texted Ryan asking if he had a PayPal or something and that I would send him money to buy new stuff and to please get rid of my old stuff because I am not coming back. And that was his room now. The next day, I called Mom and told her what I told Ryan and that it was messed up that she let him live in my room without changing it. She blew up at me, saying I was a selfish AH and that I can't have it both ways. Either I'm not responsible for the kids and I should butt out, or I'm responsible and I need to own up to abandoning them. This has stuck in my craw ever since. I do think it's super weird. But if Ryan's been living like that without complaint, am I just getting involved unnecessarily? I quite plainly said that I don't want to be responsible for the family anymore, but here I am telling them how to live. My partner says that He kind of agrees with Mom in that I should just drop my relationship with my family because I'll inevitably try to take responsibility for them, when all that will do is cause pain on both sides. He also said I'm a bit of an for telling Ryan all that without clearing it with Mom first, because that will just make things harder for him. I feel like I'm going nuts here. AITA? NTA, your mom has both turned you into her co-parent in her mind to a wild extreme. Not okay. And has a very disturbing and unrealistic want to have everyone stay children and the same in her house forever. Her job is to raise capable adults who start their own lives, but that's not what she thinks it is. I'm sorry that she's making you feel like the bad guy here. Having a loving and supportive relationship with your siblings from afar is healthy. The only option shouldn't be in her house and fully responsible for them as a parent or NC. That's nuts. You're right to be freaked out by the frozen in time bedroom. That's sometimes done when someone dies, not when they simply move out. That's insane. And she's attempted to groom you into the parent while she gets to act like a child. She needs intense mental help. NTA by any stretch of the imagination. I think if your brother seems okay with it, he may actually be trying to emotionally distance himself from the reality of it. Also, because you're the responsible one instead of Mom, he may be comforted by being surrounded by your belongings. I'm going to try and explain this as clearly as possible because it's a very confusing story, so sorry in advance. I, 28 female, live with my friend and roommate, 30 female, in a flat that I own. We have been friends for almost a decade and have lived together a few times over the years, and when I bought my place, she asked to move in. It was a good deal. She gets to save to buy by paying reduced rent, and I get some help with the mortgage. My friend is also from a super religious family, but does not follow a lot of her family's beliefs now, premarital sex, drinking, etc. Her parents have accepted this, but asked that she keeps that part of her life hidden. The problem started when my friend found out she was pregnant from a NOS and decided to keep the baby. Her parents disowned her, and she was heartbroken, but not surprised. I told her that I was okay with her continuing to pay rent here and live with me for as long as she needs, and she gave birth to her baby boy, A, 6 months ago. Around 2 months ago, her parents got back in touch and told her they'd like to see her. She has lots of much younger siblings who she helped raise, so she was super excited to go and see them. But they asked her not to take the baby, as they don't want to be involved with him. I offered to look after A while she saw her siblings, thinking it would be a one-time deal. Now she visits them almost every weekend and sometimes during the week, often staying the night, while I look after A. I didn't mind too much to begin with. He's a very good baby and I love hanging out with him. But A got sick last weekend just before she left to stay at her parents' house for the night, and after his temperature got super high, I took him to the hospital. It took her 6 hours to answer her phone, and she still didn't come to the hospital for another 3. Her parents live an hour away. I felt so powerless when A was sick because I'm not his mom or guardian, and the hospital had regulations about how much I could do for and be with him, and although he's better now, I'm worried about looking after him again. She asked me to take care of him again this weekend, and I lost it. I explained that she had really put me in a horrible position while he was ill, and if she doesn't give me some sort of guardianship, medical rights over him, I won't be watching him again. She cried and said, I'm holding her hostage now by giving her an ultimatum that means she can't see her parents if she doesn't agree to give me rights to her son. And now I feel like I may be TA. Thank you all so much for all the responses and advice. You all brought up a lot of good points that I honestly hadn't considered. I've been thinking very short term, really just about trying to help my friend and look after A. I don't think I realized what the long-term implications of continuing to help her with him or for asking for legal rights to him would do. And I do think she's taking advantage of me a bit. I am going to try and talk to her soon to discuss what exactly is happening at home with her parents and try to figure out a long-term plan in regards to her living with me and me taking care of A so frequently. I'm also going to try and gently bring up PPD, as I hadn't considered that as an issue. Thank you all again. I will update afterwards. NTA. Honestly, I think you're focusing on the entirely wrong thing here. Your friend found out her baby was in the hospital and did not care. Does that sound healthy to you? Is that the kind of person you want to live with? You really need to ask yourself exactly how involved you want to be here, because your friend sounds like a horrible parent, and you taking care of this baby is wallpapering over that. Do you imagine yourself babysitting this kid every weekend 6 years from now? 10? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, first of all, NTA, not even close. Second of all, if she doesn't see how dangerous this situation could have been for her son, that's a problem. It's great she's trying to reconnect with her family, but she's a mother now, and she can't just leave her kid every weekend to hang out with people who want to pretend he doesn't exist. That isn't healthy, and it's bordering on abuse, neglect. The only reason I say bordering is because thankfully she has you there to take care of this baby. There is a fairly easy process to grant someone medical proxy in most states. She wouldn't be giving up her rights to her son in any way. She's just allowing you to make medical decisions in the event there is another emergency, and she takes 6 hours to reply. I cannot, under any circumstances, imagine a scenario where I am still breathing and it takes me that long to check my phone when one of my kids is with a babysitter. NTA. A simple medical consent form would be easy to do, and there's also things like limited power of attorney. As a part-time babysitter, a medical consent form is probably the best fit.